All right. Welcome back into Ben Talks Utah Hockey. And on this episode, we are going to dive into the pregame matchup between Utah and the Minnesota Wild. So, this game is tomorrow, uh, December 20th. Game's in Minnesota, so it's a road game for Utah. And we're gonna dive into some pregame thoughts here, some thoughts that I have, some players to watch, and at the end of the episode, we have our first listener question, and we're going to get to that at the end of the episode. We'll finish it off with that and kind of my thoughts on what they asked. So, starting off, Utah is 3-0-1 in their last four games, with the overtime loss coming against the Wild in a shootout. They're currently 15, 11, and 5 on the year. And the Wild, they are 1-3-0 in the last four games, coming off a loss to the Panthers in a 6-1 blowout. That seems to be the case for them as of late. They either play a really tight game, it's a close game, or they end up getting blown out and letting the game get out of hand quickly if they get down a couple of goals. So, one little thing just to watch here. My prediction, I'll get to it later, but I do think it's going to be a close game. So, a couple players to watch for the Minnesota Wild. First off, we got to talk about Kirill Kaprizov. He's got 22 goals, 26 assists for 48 points, and a plus 23 rating on the year. Just having an insane year, putting up a ton of points, well over a point per game average this year. He's their star player, and we need to try to contain him in this matchup. He averages about 22 minutes a game, and he's definitely a threat to put the puck in the net or set up a play in the offensive zone at any time, anywhere on the ice. You really got to watch him. He had a good game against Utah in their previous matchup last week. So definitely got to watch for Kaprizov. He's a legit stud in the NHL. Second player to watch for the Wild, it's going to be Filip Gustavsson. He's their goaltender. He's 14, 5, and 3 in the net this year with a 922 save percentage and a 2.24 goals against average. I'm thinking he's going to get the start in this one because Marc-Andre Fleury, their backup, the Flower, he that's his nickname if you don't know. Marc-Andre Fleury, he's a veteran in this game, and this is his last season. He declared he's going to retire after this year, and he's been the backup for Minnesota this year. But he played the last game versus the Panthers in that 6-1 loss. So I think Filip Gustavsson, he's going to get the start versus Utah. And he needs to have his season average night if he hopes to keep Utah at bay in this one. So if he can just play his season average numbers, I think it's going to be a close game. If Karel Vejmelka gets the start for us in net and Gustavsson gets the start and they play their league average or their not league average, their game average night, it's going to be a close game. They're both averaging about that under 3 goals, just over 2 goals a game. So look for it to be a close battle in the goaltending department. A couple players to watch for Utah. Clayton Keller, he had 2 goals versus the Wild in their previous matchup last week, and he did have one last night versus the Canucks in that 3-2 overtime win. He is looking to stay hot as he leads Utah alongside Gunther. They're tied for 30 points on the year. He's really stepped up his game the further we've gotten to the season, and he's been a driving force for the momentum on Utah's offense. So look for Keller to stay hot in this game. And second player to watch is one of his line mates, Nick Schmaltz. He's been playing well lately. He registered an assist last night on Keller's goal. He drove to the net. He had a nice a nice shot, and Keller picks up the rebound on that goal. But look for Schmaltz to stay hot. He keeps driving to the net, and if he sees an opening, he's going to take it. He almost had one in the overtime last night versus the Canucks that he doinked off the crossbar on a nice. He deked everyone out of their skates, and fortunately, we still got the win with Sergachev getting that goal late in the overtime period, but Schmaltz could have ended it. Ugh. His name is so hard to say when you're speaking quickly. Schmaltz, he almost ended it earlier in that overtime. So look for him to stay hot. He's hungry for points, and look for that first line to feed him. They've been looking a lot better as of late. So just watch that first line. They're going to be the first and the second line. I think are going to be the main drivers in this upcoming matchup. So, and last player to watch is the goaltender Karel Vejmelka. Will we see him in the net? I think so. I don't think that Andre Tourigny is going to put Stauber in for this matchup. My money's on Vejmelka being on the ice in Minnesota. I do think Stauber will get some action in the back-to-back coming up this next week in Utah. Vejmelka had a solid performance last night, only letting in 2 goals on 27 shots, so look for him to remain hot on the road. As Andre Tourigny, he has been riding his goaltender into the middle part of this season, so they've really been relying on Vejmelka back there, and it'd be nice. It's going to be nice when he gets a night off, and if Jackson Stauber can also get a win for the boys. But I think we'll see Stauber in the upcoming matchups in the back-to-back this next week, right before Christmas. So those are my players to watch. Just a couple of thoughts here, and I'll get to my prediction. Can Utah keep their momentum up versus the Central Division second place team? And can they jump back into a wild card spot in the standings? As of right now, they're sitting in that 5th spot with 35 points, 1 spot behind Colorado, who sits at 36, and they're only 3 points behind the Stars at 38, and they sit in that 3rd place spot. And the playoffs aren't starting tomorrow, but if Utah can have a hot streak to finish out December, if they can get points in every single game as December comes to a close, I think they're going to be sitting in a good spot going into the middle of the season, and they might be able to sneak into the playoffs. Do I think they're going to make a deep playoff run if they do make it? No, not necessarily, and nobody has predicted that. That's not even on the radar, I think, for the management at Utah. But I'd love to be proven wrong on that thought. We will see. We'll see as the season goes on. You know, we can only look at the games that we've got in front of us at this point. And yeah, like I said, I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love for them to sneak into the playoffs this year. And, you know, even if they get bounced in the first round, just to get there and get some experience in the playoffs for some of these young players, I think that'd be really important, and it'd be a huge step this year, a monumental step if you want to call it that. I mean, nobody is expecting Utah to get there, but if they do and they get on a couple of these hot streaks like the one they've been on as of late, I don't think they're going to just stay hot and go undefeated for the rest of the season, but I do think, you know, if they can win, you know, 5 out of 8 games here and there throughout the rest of the season, I really think they're going to be sitting in a pretty good spot. So my prediction for this game is I think we're going to see another close game, and it could come down to one mistake one way or the other that's capitalized by either team. I'm betting on Utah in this game. They've been playing strong hockey on the road this year, winning their previous 6 road games. So look for them to stay hot on the road here in Minnesota before they head back home to Utah for a little homestand. Um, yeah, I this these next couple of games before Christmas are big. They're all Western Conference matchups, and they're all big points to be had. So just look for them to stay hot on the road. I'm hoping that they can get it done. So that's my prediction. I don't. If I had to guess a goal. What do you call it? The goal number of goals scored, like the over under on that. I bet the under over. I haven't even looked at the odds, but I bet the over under is at 6.5, and I think we're gonna see the over on that. I think we're gonna see some goals in this next game, and yeah, Utah's probably the underdog, but I love the way they've been playing on the road lately. They've been hot, so that's my prediction. And last but not least, I want to get into a listener question that I received from Kajoba3 on Spotify. She says, "Hey Ben, just listened to your podcast for the first time on Spotify. Thank you for listening and commenting. I really appreciate it. It's awesome to see that." She says, "I'm so impressed with your thoughts and insight." I don't know if you should be impressed, but again, I appreciate it. I appreciate you saying so. She says, "A couple of comments and one question. I love this team and I can see their growth and improvement every game. When they play focused and disciplined, they are even with most teams." Yes, I would agree. "I follow all the hockey, and one major advantage this team has is there no major superstar that the media dissects, adding pressure to the team." So I think your question is does Utah have a superstar? And my answer to that is yes, they have a superstar. His name's Clayton Keller. But I do think that this speaks towards your question. I do think that playing in the Arizona market and now the Utah market, they aren't the media markets like New York City, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver. And I think Keller has kind of flown under the radar and is seen as a player that doesn't really have that superstar potential by some of the other markets in this league. Even though he's been a 4-time All-Star with 3 consecutive years as an All-Star. So he has the most All-Star appearances of anyone in the franchise if you count the years in Arizona, which for all intents and purposes on this question, I'm counting those because let's face it, it's a reiteration of the Arizona franchise. So I think that since he's been in Utah, he feels like the pressure's been lifted a bit, and the GM and the owner are behind him, and they've made some big signings in the offseason, bringing in Sergachev, signing Dylan Gunther to that long-term contract, and that's complemented his game. Just building that roster around Keller, so he feels like he doesn't feel like he has to do everything every night in, night out. The burden's been being lifted by other players on this team, and he doesn't have to do it alone. And so, like Dylan Gunther, he's challenging Clayton Keller. They're both tied for the points lead on Utah this season. They both got 30, and they're sitting just right underneath that point per game average. And I think that competition has really helped Clayton Keller. Like he just doesn't feel like he's got to do everything every night, and I think that just takes a lot of pressure off of him. And I do think that he's felt invigorated this season, being in a new place, under new management, new ownership, same coach as last year and the previous years, but the way he smiles in post-game interviews and just the way he talks about his teammates and what's kind of been happening this year in some of his interviews this season, it should tell you that he's enjoying the game again. And I don't think he was playing in Arizona the last couple of seasons. I just think this season has been it's been a burden lifted off of his shoulders, and you can just see it in the way he plays when they score, when someone else on the team scores, and the way he celebrates with his teammates. You can just see that he's having fun again, and that's huge for the captain of the team. I mean, I think he's a superstar. He did get snubbed off of the Four Nations roster for the United States, but I think I said this in a previous episode that I think he's using that as a little bit of fuel to his fire as well. So, yeah, just to answer your question, yeah, I think Utah isn't as cutthroat of a media market like in New York or any of the Canadian markets, but I think that kind of suits Clayton Keller. I think the guy could probably walk down the street, get a cup of coffee, and most people probably wouldn't know who he was. And I think that will probably change. If I know anything about the Utah fan base this far, is they've been pretty avid, and it's fun to see that fan base growing. And like the owner Ryan Smith giving away tickets last night to the game and letting people sit in his suite up there in the upper deck. I think Utah hockey is here to stay, and I think the management and the ownership is behind them, and that's really important in this first season as Utah gets off to a pretty good start, a better start than most people thought they were going to have. So, yeah. Kajoba 3, I appreciate the question. Thanks for tuning in, first of all, and thanks for hitting me up and allowing me to just kind of ramble on for a minute about your question and give you my thoughts. It was a surprise. It was a nice surprise to see that when I got home from work today and started sitting down to do my notes for this pregame show. So I appreciate you listening, and that goes for the rest of you. If anyone out there is listening and you've got a question or you want to hear me talk about a certain topic, please hit me up. You can email me at bentalksutahhockey@gmail.com. You can comment on a podcast episode. You can comment on the YouTube episodes. Whatever way is best for you to get in touch. You can tweet me on X. My handle is bentalksutahhc. If you just get involved, it's awesome to see the Utah hockey community get involved in my show as well. So selfishly, I can say that. So thanks for listening. That's gonna wrap up this episode. I appreciate you listening, and let's get going here, and we'll see what Utah can do here on this matchup versus the Wild coming up tomorrow. I will have a post-game episode coming out, and then after the game, and I'll probably lump the next couple of games together as one, with that back-to-back coming up later on in next week. So I appreciate you listening. This is Ben Talks Utah Hockey, and we'll see you on the next one.